Sup guys, Phoenix here. This time with Heinkel 112 A-0. The question for today is, can this plane do it? I mean, we have one cannon with 100 rounds, so can it work with this match? Well, I will answer that for the video. Alright, so first of all, as usual, the weaponry. So as I said just now, we have only a single 20mm cannon installed centrally in the fuselage, like in the engine. See? Just like in many Russian fighters, especially Yaks. So the good news is that the convergence isn't a problem. The bad news is that despite this fact, the accuracy of the cannon is pretty subpar, to be frank. Well, at least this cannon packs a punch. Currently I'm using a belt that has half high explosive, half armor piercing rounds. And first, if I remember correctly, the high explosives may be Minengeschoss, I'm not sure. Then again, maybe not. One way or another, they are pretty powerful, however, they are pretty unreliable at the same time. On the other hand, we have very good armor piercing rounds, which have penetration of, I think, up to 40mm, which is good, very good. This means that you can take this plane into Grounder B, but more about this later. Yeah, so this, aside from this belt and the default belt, there are two more. One is exclusively armor piercing ammo, and another one is focused on high explosive ammo. From what I remember of the default belt, I think it is one armor piercing round per 3 high explosive rounds, so it's pretty good. There's no random practice or tracer shells and similar garbage in the belt. However, the problem is that we have only 100 rounds. Well, despite what it might seem like, it actually isn't that much of an issue, because the cannon has a fairly low rate of fire. However, the problem is that if you are a new player, you will really find this cannon troublesome to play with. It's only when you are once you are experienced that you will not have trouble with it. Especially since the more you fire, the more inaccurate it gets. Yeah, so another problem is jamming. I'm not sure what exactly the number would have to be, but probably after you fire some 40 or 50 rounds, the gun will jam. So don't be too trigger happy with it. Yeah. However, the muzzle velocity is pretty high, so the range is not bad. Let me see. So yeah, so the overall effectiveness in RRB, honestly, it really depends on your trigger discipline and how good you are. If you are good, then you can have even 4 or 5 kills in a single battle. There's no problem. I have had this happen to me, so to say. I have achieved this, in other words. In Ground RP, you can also rack up quite a few kills. But I will talk about this in the Ground RP section of the video. Yeah, there's no other weaponry, no turrets, no other cannons, no payload, no nothing. All you have is this single gun. Yeah, so now let's talk about survivability. So bad news is we don't have any armor on this thing, and the open cockpit means that the pilot is very vulnerable. Basically, the only thing shielding pilot from enemy fire is the engine in front of him. So yeah, so survivability is not good at all, especially since this plane isn't particularly agile or particularly fast, which means that you will often be exposed to enemy fire. Now let's talk about the reef speeds of this thing. So wings rip at a very high speed of almost 700 km per hour, which is good. You won't really have problems with this because this is far above your maximum speed. And gear rips at 300 km per hour. I will come back to flaps when I'm talking about agility. Yeah, so that's pretty much it regarding survivability. Again, to summarize, your major weak points are basically the front part of the fuselage, because you have all the oil, fuel and water stored there, and the engine and the pilot. Yeah. Because the wings are fairly large, you can take some beating, but that's pretty much it. Yeah, so let's talk about speed. Yeah, so as I said earlier, this plane unfortunately isn't particularly fast. You can see now it's flying almost levelly, and it doesn't really accelerate too fast. The maximum speed, oh, I forgot to check that one, but I'm pretty sure it was something like 460 or 480. Okay, actually, might as well jump into the hangar for a quick look. Yes, 473. Yeah, which is pretty crappy. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the belts are, yeah, just as I said. There are only those two kinds of ammo available in them. Yeah, so let's jump back and talk more about speed. Yeah, so acceleration is weak, maximum speed is weak, and you have no WEP, which is another drawback. The stall speed I will have to try out personally in a moment, because frankly speaking I don't remember. It's probably not too great, but maybe it's not that bad either. The energy retention in this thing, that also I have to check in a moment. Yeah, so be right back, I will get this thing up to speed. Alright, now we are a bit faster, we can do things now. Yeah, so first the stall speed. Alright, first without flaps. It's bound to be 100 something. Alright, so 150 is still no problem. Okay, 120 more or less kilometers per hour. Now let's get some speed and try to do the same with flaps. Landing flaps to be exact. Alright. Come on. Should be a bit better. Alright, so around 110 probably. Maybe 105 is the spar speed with flaps deployed. Yes. So next is energy retention. Well, this plane is a bit of a jack of all trades. It can turn fight a bit, it can use energy fighting a bit, but it doesn't really excel at either. So let me see. Yeah, it does bleed some speed in turns, but it's not really that bad. If we deploy the flaps, it will bleed much more speed, as is reasonable. Now let's have a quick look at horizontal energy retention. I would say that it loses speed pretty similar to other planes. It's actually not that bad at these sorts of speeds, but it's not really great either. Right, now let's have a quick look at how it looks in the horizontal. Let's get up to some speed that this plane doesn't normally operate at, and see how quick it will take to lose that speed. Alright. Right, so horizontal energy retention is actually not that bad. For tier 1 at least. It's not really great, but it's not bad either. Yes, now let's talk about the climb rate. So now it looks good, because we have all that speed. The faster you go, the faster you will climb rate. The faster you climb, sorry. The whole climb rate in the stat sheets is misleading, because I have honestly no idea at what kind of speed that climb rate applies. It's not really said anywhere. Also, again, I don't really remember the exact climb speed in the stat sheet anyway. However, as you can see here, it can climb very decently at around 300 km per hour of IAS. That is indicated airspeed. When we go down to 250, it's still a very decent climb rate that is way beyond what a biplane can do. Yeah, so you can climb relatively stably at something like 13 degrees. I'm talking about this indicator, not this one. This one shows where your nose is actually pointing, but this one is for guns. It's kind of confusing when you try to look at both. Yeah, so regarding engine performance relative to altitude, this plane doesn't really do that well at altitude. You might have noticed earlier in the stat sheet, whatever, that the maximum speed was achievable at altitude of, I think, 3,200 meters. It was something around that much. So the lower the maximum speed is, the more it is an indicator that the plane is better at lower altitudes. In other words, this plane isn't very good at high altitudes. Also, its maximum altitude is 7.5 km, which is even worse than Heinkel 51, so that also says a lot. Let's take a look at manual engine controls right now. Yeah, so we can adjust both radiator and oil radiator, which is nice. We can adjust propeller pitch, but knowing life, it will probably screw up my plane if I raise it too high. Let's see. Yep. Don't use high propeller pitch on this plane, it will die. We cannot control mixture, we cannot control supercharger, we cannot control turbocharger. Yeah, so the ability to control radiators is nice, but that's pretty much it. Propeller pitch is something you usually won't really care about on German planes, aside from some very specific situations. Next, regarding fuel, as you can see, the minimum fuel is pretty low, which is good. Around 20 minutes is what you want in an average RRB battle on propeller planes. Next, yeah, so the next comes agility. So, as you can see, the roll rate of this plane is pretty crappy. It's not good at all. So do not rely on the roll. The turn rate is not that bad, but there are many planes at tier 1 that can outturn you. Most notably, all biplanes can easily outturn you. So do not fight against biplanes. The rudder seems to be very responsive, so there's no issue with that. There isn't much of an issue on mouse aim either. Well, if you will pay attention to the mouse, there is a bit of a bump, so it may affect your accuracy a bit. So back to flaps. They rip at 400 kilometers per hour combat flaps, around 20 kilometers per hour less takeoffs, and close to 300 kilometers per hour landing flaps. Actually, let's spell it out, 270 kilometers per hour, because this 30 kilometers per hour may well end your flaps if you are unaware of the exact difference. As you can see when you look at the flaps, they deploy rather fast. There's not any sort of issue as compared to Bf 109. They provide a decent boost to your agility, however they also bleed your speed as usual. Next, regarding the influence of altitude on, the influence of high speed on agility, then let's have a quick look. Alright, so the turn rate isn't really affected by high speed. The roll rate, it might be a bit worse actually. Yeah. So I will climb up again and we'll see at low speed, but I don't think there's anything much of a difference. Next, regarding altitude's influence on agility, because the engine is bad at dealing with high altitudes, the agility is most likely to suffer. But at altitudes that you will fight at in tier 1, you won't really feel much of a difference. Alright. Yeah, at low speeds the roll rate seems to suffer. The turn rate maybe a bit. The difference isn't really palpable. And there are no additional features that you can unlock that would enhance the agility or such. Yeah. The turn does seem to be worse. Yeah, the agility does suffer a bit at speeds below 200 km per hour. Alright, so that's pretty much regarding flight performance. Be right back. Alright guys, let's go. So, as usual, I'll start with some history background of this thing. So as I mentioned... Ooh, that's intimidating. Full up tier, I guess. 2 something for sure. 2.3 at least, maybe, whatever. Anyway, as I was saying, as I mentioned on my BF109 video, this thing was one of the 3 fighters that competed with it and lost. It had pretty good results initially and was somewhat likely to win the competition initially. The problem is that 109 was faster, more responsive, and also it also had less issues with speed at higher altitudes. And finally, Heinkel 112 crashed during certain tests. Yeah, so anyway, the design originated from late 1933 with prototype ready in, I believe, 1935. By the way, A-0 is the name of the prototype series, or you could call it pre-production series. I think there are around 10 prototypes made in total, or something close to it. So the prototypes were made on 1935 and 36, and they lost the competition against 19, but they were... Well, some of them were used by Germans in the Spanish Civil War, but with limited success, and were pressed into ground attack role eventually. Some of them were also used by Germans temporarily when they were about to annex Sudeten region. Let's use the German name here because I don't know the English name. It's referring to the first annexation of Czech territory of mountains in the west of Czech Republic. Those 2 guys are a bit tricky. Yeah, but eventually Germany didn't really use those fighters in particular, and Heinkels were sent for export. So there were several main operators. So first of all, Hungary used a few. This guy on the left. Alright, let's try. Let's dodge. Let's dodge some more. Negative. Alright. P400, to be frank, I'm not sure if I can outturn him, but let's try. Oh, this guy is trying hard. And there's the other dude, which is not good. Shit. Where's my teammate? Alright, kill the other guy that I ended up setting up. Yep, of course. I do all the work and they get all the fruits of the labor. Right, so back to the topic, there are several operators of mostly B series. There were overall around 100 planes made, and of them several went to Hungary, I think 3. But the whole negotiations with Hungary were pretty mishapen. There were some talks about selling those planes to Hungary, there were some talks about license production there, but it didn't really succeed in any form. However, Romania used quite a few of those planes, at least 2 squadrons, from what I remember. Alright. Dame, alright. Can I get this guy? I think I can take him. Oh, screwed up. Yeah, this plane scan is pretty tricky. Come on, come on, come on. Alright, with flaps I can somewhat manage. Come on. Yeah, cool, another guy. Fortunately not interested in me. I feel like there's something behind me and I feel right. Alright, let's dodge this. Woo! That was narrowly. Okay, two of my guys here. Why are they not helping me properly? Alright. Let's go upside down here. Yeah, good that that P-36 crashed. Come on, come on, come on. Get your guns. Oh, I have some funny performance. Of course, some good is trying to butt in. Alright. Come on. Yeah, see, this is the problem with the low rate of fire. It's not impossible for enemy to simply go through your shots, between your shots to be exact. Alright, now I have a nice opportunity. Lucky. Survived after all that dodging. Yeah, so one dude. Yeah, so Romania used quite a few of them and even used them against their enemies, primarily the Soviet Union. However, when they used them against the Soviet Union, it didn't really go too well. They did have some success in the fighter role, but eventually retired this plane to ground attack role. Right, let me show you how it fares against some ground targets with this cannon. Other than that, Japan bought a bunch of Heinkels, and you can even see them in the Japanese tree in the as a premium 2.0 plane, but the problem is that the Japanese didn't really like it all that much and eventually only used them as training planes. Alright, let's try something light. Alright. Mind that light vehicles on RRB are considerably more fragile compared to targets in ground RB. Yeah, there were several potential operators that didn't work out, such as Finland, Austria before Anschluss, the Netherlands, possibly something more that I don't really remember right now. That's pretty much it regarding history. I have no clue where that bomber is, so I will not bore you with the rest of this, but we'll be right back. Alright guys, let us continue. So before I talk about the META, take a look please. We have high explosive fragmentation incendiary tracer exclusive belt. So I just picked it to show you how it performs, but I'll spoil it right away. It doesn't work too well. I've mistakenly thought that it was meningacious, but it's some slightly worse round, unfortunately. It's not that it has well, it does pack considerably less of a punch, but the main problem is that it's quite unreliable. There's also an exclusively armor-piercing belt. I think it was armor-piercing incendiary tracer, which is just as unreliable, therefore I will repeat. It's best to pick default or universal ammo belt. Right now let's talk about META. At this BR you will often find yourself in teams of Germany or Italian Germany versus United States and usually United Kingdom, sometimes France, sometimes without United Kingdom or without France. In those teams you will often find yourself outnumbered by enemy fighters because a lot of German low tier is filled with attackers and bombers. Well, in this one case it seems like there are 3 enemies and 3 enemy bombers on an enemy team, which is quite unusual. Yeah, but we are at 1.7, which means fewer biplanes to worry, which is good. Because biplanes can all outturn you. I think there's not a single... Oh, that was close. I think there is not a single biplane that you can outturn in this plane. So biplanes are your big enemy that you don't want to turn fight with. He flew right in between my bullets. This is a frequent problem with this cannon. Not the first time by any means that it happened to me. Alright. Let's try again. Damn. Yeah, so you have fewer biplanes and more monoplanes. For monoplanes you can outturn most of them, but not all. Alright, gotcha. That was a nice dogfight. Let me compliment the dude. Okay, so as I was saying, most monoplanes you can outturn, however there will be some tricky enemies that you will be helpless against, such as American P-26 and French Devoisin fighters. That 371 I think it was, and 510 are tricky opponents for you. Next... Oh, wait, actually 351 wasn't that a biplane? I don't really remember. But yeah, but there's at least one French fighter monoplane that can easily outturn you. However, most monoplanes you can turn fight without problem. And if you know what you are doing, you can even take on 2 or 3 at a time. However, don't get too cocky, because you may end up getting forced to pay for your arrogance, like I was a number of times. Wait, why is that guy getting closer? Alright, let's quickly try to take him out. Shit! Ooh, close. Alright, one less to worry about. Those 2 guys there are chasing my friend. Let's help him out. Yeah, so know thy enemy and you will know whom to fight, whom not to fight. I don't really recommend doing head-ons, at the very least not from far away. I was going to go take that deadly money on, but he ended up crashing. Alright, let's finish him off, because stealing his rampart at this BR. Yeah, so if you get down tier, you will see more biplanes. If you will get up tier, you will see more monoplanes. So that's pretty much it for the meta per se. So for hard enemies, I pretty much said all that was necessary right now. Alright, maybe he will crash, because he's flying a bit like his rank. Yep, he did. Maybe he was thinking the gunner view constantly. Yeah, so again, don't get too cocky and don't take on too many enemies at once, and be especially aware of some especially tricky enemies, just as those I mentioned. An average plane you can take on, but again, for example, American monoplanes, disregarding between these 6, are likely to be faster than you. Alright, there's bomber there. Yeah, so my advice tactics are to use turn fighting and energy fighting in a mix that's depending on what kind of enemies you are facing. I suggest that you climb to around 2 kilometers of altitude at the beginning of the match, because if you're flying too low, you will not have enough energy, and you will not have enough space to maneuver. Also, you will be probably outnumbered by low-flying fighters. On the other hand, there is no real need to climb more than 2 or maybe 2.5 kilometers unless you are going to take on bombers. which I wouldn't really say is a good idea with how much of a botter it is. And that's why I will spare you the footage of me chasing any bomber. UAV operator? Am I missing something? Did a bomber launch a UAV, lol? Bruh. Yeah, so in summary, this is a plane that it has tricky armament, but is kind of reliable as a jack of all trades otherwise, at least as long as you know what you are doing and what tactics you can or should use against given enemies. If you pick tactics wrong against an enemy that isn't suitable to fight with those tactics, then you will suffer. Otherwise, however, you should do well, as long as you get used to the tricky cannon, which has trouble with its accuracy and limited amount of ammo. So yeah, to kind of answer the question I posed right at the start, yes, you can make do with this single cannon and its ammo. As you can see, I have 4 kills and still have 39% of ammo left. But this requires trigger discipline and good accuracy. It will be especially tricky before you upgrade the cannon modification and before you get used to it. Otherwise, however, you should do well if you know what you are doing. Right, so be right back. I will show you ground RB next. Alright guys, now it's time for ground RB. As you can see, armor piercing, incendiary tracer, shell, exclusive belt. We have a few planes in the air on the enemy side, which may be a bit problematic, but we'll see. So, first of all, the effectiveness of this plane in ground RB at this particular BR is considerably good. Basically speaking, you are a capable fighter enough to hold your own against the enemy fighters that will intercept you. I feel like there's something. Yeah, anyway, there are 3 enemy planes in the air, so you'll definitely see me fight against them. And the ammunition is also very good against enemy tanks at this BR. I think until something like 3.7 is where you can make good use of it. As you can see here, the ammo's penetration is better than other German cannons in comparison. Yeah, see, it works. I'll leave the guy to die with his engine damaged. Whoa, that was close. Yeah, so the cannon is considerably effective against ground targets and planes alike, even with armor-piercing belts. However, nice. However, yeah, again, as I said, it depends on your BR. Ooh, there was something on my ass. Thank you, gentlemen. I think there's no other enemy around, so I can focus on tanks now. However, there is no payload, which means that this plane is of limited effectiveness at higher BR, where you need to use bombs to actually do some damage to enemies on the ground. Right, I don't see any tanks so far. I'll have to... Okay, I see 2 of them, or 3 of them actually at their respawn. Alright, so the most likely to... Is it an AA? It is. Yeah, this is okay, another plane. I had better take it down first. Yeah, one problem with this ammo is that it has no explosive filler, which means that it may not really deal much damage to enemy tanks even when it penetrates their armor. Alright, I need to put a flaps. That looks like something French. G50 maybe. Yep, I think that's G50. Yep, G50. Alright, so back to enemy tanks. Yeah, so because you are a fairly good fighter, as long as you know what you are doing, you should be able to survive a bit. You have to pay a lot of attention to enemy planes. As you can see, I can... Whoa! Shit! I screwed it up big time. Alright, I have no backup, so see you in a moment. Yeah, this is one of the dangers in Ground War B. You can easily crash if you are not attentive. So I will leave it for you to see and learn from my mistakes. Be right back in a moment. Alright, let's continue. So, I was talking about survivability. So yeah, generally you can survive for quite a while as long as you pay attention to enemy planes. Because there are no markers, no red markers to be exact, around enemy planes, it is very easy for them to catch you unawares. This is what you have to be very careful of. It's very easy for enemy planes to sneak up on you, and this is the main cause of deaths for you at this BR enemy planes. Then the next will come SPAs. They are also a very considerable threat, as long as they focus on actually shooting enemy planes instead of taking on tanks. That is, of course. As for roof machine guns of enemy tanks, they are not that much of a threat. I don't know if there's something coming there or not. So let's focus on the guys I see here. And first clean out enemy planes a bit. That looks like something Italian. And there was one more plane somewhere. Yeah, there's definitely some other plane around. It may even be behind me. No enclave. No, he's not. Alright, let's leave this guy for time being alone and focus on some tanks. Yeah, so survivability, as long as you are lucky you will and keep your eyes peeled, there won't be an issue. Alright, he's turning around, might as well take this opportunity to finish him off, hopefully. I'm not sure if that guy has any forward placed machine guns. Alright, set him on fire. This should be GG for him. Don't see any other planes. So it should be fine. Yeah, so you may be able to live long enough to dump all your ammo and still be able to return to the base. Something crashed there. Alright. Let me see what we can strafe here. Alright, there are some guys rushing our spawn here. Yeah, so as you can see, even though you can penetrate the armor of enemy ground vehicles, it still takes a while to actually kill them. Alright, so I've pretty much mentioned the acceptable BR that you can take this. As I said, at 3.3 more or less, you can still manage. But other than that, higher than that, it would be troublesome. Also, the higher the BR, the more you are reduced to just shooting at vulnerable points, such as roof, armor, engine, compartment, and so on. Okay, there is still something there. That stupid tower. Antenna or whatever goes in my way. Yeah, so overall this is a handy plane. You're gonna have some fun with it, but it's not all that great. This guy's flying away, I won't bother with him then. You still, however, have to deal with a lot of danger, such as the one that's shooting at me there. Let's see if they take it down. And if not, I think I might have... Oh, no, I didn't get the gunner. Yeah, so the advised tactics is to constantly keep your eyes peeled and don't fly too high, where it will be easy to spot, and by no means should you fly slow, yeah, because this is what will happen. Alright, I suppose it's not that bad. Got more kills in the previous match. But I've said all that I wanted pretty much. So the economy in this thing is nothing special because it's tier 1. It's decent for tier 1. Or should I say rank 1, but it's pretty much it. As you can see, 100% research, 30% SL, repair costs at over 400. So if you were to ask me whether this is worth your grind, then it depends. If you like what you are seeing here, then you can play it. But if you are a newbie, then you probably won't really want to use it in RRB. It's a bit of a tricky plane to fly. It has good performance, but it doesn't really have any crashing specialties, crashing advantage of any kind. And well, honestly, I think it's better to just fly its better version or Heinkel. But it also depends. If you want to unlock Heinkel D1, which is quite good, it has very good performance for a rank 1 plane. It can be up tiered even to rank 3. Well, maybe not rank 3, but definitely, well, okay, early rank 3, yeah. No, wait, to full rank 3, yeah. 4.0, 5.0, Heinkel 100 can stand its own there. It's only that it's shitty armament. It cannot really deal much damage to enemies, but otherwise it is very good. So if you want to unlock this one or something, then you can unlock the Heinkel. Oh, but you have to first unlock this one. So yeah, maybe it's not really worth losing your time on. Not that you will need a lot of it, because the costs here are very low at rank 1. Yeah, so regarding modifications to unlock, I would say that what you want to unlock first is probably the weaponry to make it more usable. And after that, probably the engine and survivability upgrades, probably in that order. The flight performance ones, that is fuselage and wings repair, is relatively unimportant. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching. Until the next time.